The lights dim, and the show is about to begin. It's an action-packed film dubbed from the native language into standard. You settle in with your popcorn and watch the show.
Yoshi! Over the crest of the hill! Merrick makes our storming no Tokyo! Get your locust and help us!
Attention, all citizens. Evacuate the area.
Yamato! There is a Westwood behind you! I am hit! Look out! He is trying to step on you! Don't worry, Yamato! I will get him! Yoshi! I am a Mizoloja! I will help you!
Being such an old hollow, it was inevitable that the film would break. You and the other viewers grumble and file out of the theater. Originally released in 1988 for the PC, Apple II, Atari ST, and the Commodore 64 in 1989, and we saw its release on the Commodore Amiga. Published by Infocom and developed by Westwood Associates, this is Battletech, the Crescent Hawks Inception, although the game screen itself only calls it Battletech. The manual in the box, I believe, add the Crescent Hawks Inception, because I guess they had some sequels in mind. This is the first computer game receiving an official license for the Battletech brand. Battletech was a very popular board game in the vein of Dungeons and Dragons, very tactical war game style game there, and they also had many books at the time. I believe that is where my dad found out about this and wanted the game because he read a lot of those Battletech books. It would spawn one direct sequel, The Crescent Hawks Revenge, but then after that, that is when it became more well-known, because the license went to Activision, and they came out with Mech Warrior, and Mech Warrior 2 specifically was the one that really made it known to all gamers of all kinds, all ages, is the Mech Warrior 2 game. Today I will be covering the humble science fiction RPG beginnings to this storied computer franchise, the first game in the series. A game that I credit for my long love of computer RPGs, Western style, non-linear American RPGs. I credit it all to this beginnings right here. Now, the beginning here is going to be about showing you around town, as it were, just giving you the feel of the overall game and its scope. There's a lot of stuff you might be interested in reading along the way, but I wanted to take a moment here and talk about the sequel to this game, the Crescent Hawks Revenge, which is a very different game to this one. This is the only RPG that was ever in the Battletech franchise here, and I feel it's quite special for that. The sequel was never released on the Amiga. It came out in 1989, same year this one came out for the Amiga. It's more of a linear, real-time strategy game. For the longest time, I was not a fan of that change in style there, and I really wish they would have continued on with the RPG elements of this series. In the late 90s, one of the first games I ever searched out for in the abandonware sites was the Crescent Hawks Revenge, and I played it on DOS, and for all of about, 15-20 minutes, actually. That's how much I didn't like it. I just, oh my god, what the hell is this? I played it for a few minutes, and goodbye. Now, recently I've been watching my friend Gaming Jay play through the second game in the series, which he loves, and he never played this one. Now, seeing him play through this, I realize that the key to both of these games and loving them, I believe, is in their story, which are both told in a very Infocom, old-school text adventure way. Now, the first game here is an RPG. The second game is a tactical, real-time strategy game. But both of them are presented, the story is presented as an adventure game, a text adventure game specifically. Very rich in their text, and I realize that the second game is very much worth a look. And if you And if you want to find out a little bit more about that game from somebody who loves it just as much as I love this game here, I fully recommend that check out Gaming Jay's complete playthrough of it. And while you guys sit here and read a bit of this story here, this great story, I will play a little bit from Gaming Jay's video now.
Infocom presents The Crescent Hawk's Revenge.
And over the next few weekends, we are going to be playing our way through one of my all-time favorite DOS games. If you're a Battletech fiend like me, just seeing this map fills you with joy and nostalgia. So we get to select our mechs here, and as you can see, they all have different statistics here. The dropship crashes into a lake east of the Kellhound base. I like how it has like mission failed music right now. So I see the Locust now. He's still on the road. Good job. Okay, boss, I'm in position. Okay, battle has commenced. Let's slow it down here and see what's going on. This might have been a bad idea. Come on, man. Kill him. The Jenner is hot. It's overheating, but it's in the water. It'll be okay. He's attacking the dropship. He's blasted through the hull. And we all failed.
Be sure to check out the Gaming Jay's continuation of the storyline in the Crescent Hawk's Revenge. To love this game is to get into its story, the universe in which these characters are revolving in. I am a person who has always given either full credit or full blame to a game's publisher. A lot of people who don't agree with that, they love to point out who actually developed the game. And here is Westwood Associates developed this game, who would go on to great success in many other areas, including I believe Dune, Eye of the Beholder, plenty others. I, on the other hand, when people on the NES like to point out, LJN, well, they didn't really make any games. They just publish them. No, the publisher absolutely has full responsibility for the games that they publish. Well, they might not be physically coding it, but they absolutely can tell these people that are making it, this is kind of what I want you to go after. This is what I'm willing, to pay money for. This is what I want the final product to be, and they have the final say. If it comes to them and they say, no, change this, change that, or not, if they just accept it, whatever it is, they are fully responsible for what they put out. And if they didn't put it out, chances are actually that it probably wouldn't go to somebody else, that it probably would die. And if it did go to somebody else, well, then that's now the company that can say, well, I want you to change this or not change it. It is the publisher that has credit to these games. Absolutely. You can give them both credits, or you can give them both blame, but you can't just blame one or the other. And because of that final say element to it all, I tend to give the publishers just a little bit more credit than the developers, actually. It really is their doing. If something gets, if you see it because it's published, that's the fact. Infocom published this one. Infocom, the storied adventure, text adventure publisher, made just countless numbers of text adventures, but they also ventured from time to time to other fields. Not as much as they should have, I believe. Infocom was very always thumbed their nose at the newer adventure from LucasArts and Sierra. I really feel they have no respect for those adventure games at the time, and they stood tall and said, no, we are not going this graphical way. It's better when it's text. And perhaps maybe they had a point with Sierra and stuff. Maybe that didn't have enough story to it. Maybe it was all about the graphics, and they didn't devote enough to the story. Perhaps you can make that argument, but what you can't argue for is a fact that, well, Infocom, if you didn't like that, graphics were still good. You could have still done something there. You chose not to. This is an example of marrying two genres together. This is Infocom at their best with the text, but we also have some graphics here. I truly feel if they would have done more of these types of games with just that great story that is quintessentially Infocom. I don't care if Westwood developed it. I'm telling you, You cannot escape the absolute feeling of Infocom in this game. Now, whether they told Westwood to make it like this, or whether Westwood felt they should make it like this, either way, Infocom, just seeps through this game. The game features a damn good manual. I think we should take a look at it. Here's the last page. By the way, it might have been Westwood Associates designing it. It was Infocom standing behind it, though. We are never satisfied. Here at Infocom, we're constantly trying to push back the envelope and explore the possibilities of this fledgling medium. Your input is important. If you liked or disliked the game or some section of it, or if you found a bug, or if you think a certain puzzle was too hard or too easy, or if you have some other suggestion, drop us a note. We love every excuse to stop working, and a letter from you is just such an excuse. Write to Infocom 125, Cambridge Park Drive, Cambridge, Massachusetts 02140. Melissa Steiner, yes, that's another American one, everybody. Westwood Associates was also an American company, and the ports, I believe, were also handled by them. So, 100% Amiga game that was made in America. So, therefore, I believe you must take note of its NTSC origins. Play it in NTSC mode with the proper speed. A 4:3 aspect ratio, as you see here, because everybody else is showing it in wide screen. Now, you saw me here actually intentionally lose my first training mission here. It's because the more you play these missions, there are only a certain amount of them. And if you win every one, you have a possibility of not actually training up your skills in this RPG here. A lot of the skills, the piloting skills specifically, you can only get via training. Therefore, it's actually a good idea to lose a few of them. Now, while you are training, you get an allowance, which you can use to buy certain things, like maybe a weapon or armor. You can also choose to invest it in the stock market. These stocks have varying degrees of risk. One stock might consistently just keep making you money, but not that much money. Another one might make you a hell of a lot of money, but it could also cause you to lose it all. And, you can use that money to train some more in various areas. It's an RPG. You want your skills up. That's the point of it all. Well, the game is going to show you some nice bit of story text that I think you'll be interested in reading. Now I'm going to show you some more of the manual. The Commonwealth Battle Mech Corps Field Training Manual, Pacifica Training School. Lyron Commonwealth Armed Forces. Congratulations, your achievements in the classroom have earned you a berth at the Pacifica Training School, one of the Lyron Commonwealth's premier battle mech training facilities. Here, you will undertake the final stage of your preparation for Mech Warrior certification. Over the next few weeks, you will perform a series of solo cockpit training missions, each one progressively harder than the last. You'll be maneuvering a full-size, fully operational battle mech inside a specifically designed arena, which simulates actual battlefield conditions. The firepower on board our mechs consists of real, high-powered weaponry, no toys or mock-ups. While training missions are typically quite brief, they are physically and emotionally demanding. Since we at the school realize this, we have not prepared any rigid timetable for your training. Rather, we allow you to advance at your own speed, undertaking the various training missions only when you feel you are ready. In between missions, you will find much to do in the surrounding town, the Citadel. The planetary seat of government hosts infantry combat courses, which are quite valuable despite their sizable tuition fees. Luckily, the Comstar station next door has full banking and stock trading facilities. You can rest up at your barracks or pass time at the lounge. And for your shopping needs, local stores include a weapon shop, an armor shop, and a Mechatolube. Of course, we expect all students at the school to maintain mature behavior and a courteous attitude in class and free time. However, should the student become involuntarily drawn into a bad situation, remember the reputation of the school you're attending and wreak some havoc. After all, do you want to be a mech warrior or a librarian? I love that. History, the succession wars. Over the past 1,000 years, man evolved a complex and burgeoning technology that paved the way for the colonization of space. Man made life possible on outer planets by solving such vital problems as universal distribution of pure water, effective government, a far-flung world, and viable communications. However, man has become the victim of his own invention. The seeds of his destruction are planted in his technology. In ceaseless waves of violent wars fought out of sheer lust for power, the successor houses have slaughtered untold millions and unraveled more than 1,000 years of advancement, and still the ruthlessly fierce contest for supremacy continues. The First Succession War from 2787 to 2821 left cities decimated, vital industries destroyed, and hundreds of millions of civilians dead. All energies were turned to war. Civilian technology, including water purification systems, deteriorated drastically. The Second Succession War from 2830 to 2863 was just as deadly, destructive, and indecisive as the first. The blossoming military technology withered as the scientists who created and nurtured it died in war. It became increasingly difficult to build the computers, large fusion power plants, battle mechs, and dropships desperately needed for the relentless combat. Production slowed dramatically, lagging dangerously far behind. Battlefield losses, the warlords were reduced, cannibalizing existing equipment for spare parts to supplement the building of new weaponry. Salvage became vitally important to survival. The Third Succession War, 2866 to present, continues the brutal contest. Resources are too scarce to destroy, too valuable not to fight for. War is now a way of life. Time to talk a little bit about the combat. Manual combat is quite straightforward and easy to master. Weapons need only be targeted. Precise aiming and firing is done automatically. Using the scanning feature, you can quickly obtain information about any unit on the battlefield, such as what kind of weapons it's firing or how close it is to death. A basic knowledge of the physical makeup of a mech is necessary before the pilot can safely and successfully lead a mech into combat. What follows is a brief explanation of the general components of the battle mech. The skeleton. At the heart of every battle mech is a skeleton, much like that of a human being. Several dozen bones, each fabricated to resist structural damage and combat stress while meeting exacting weight limits, make up the mech skeleton. This skeletal structure allows the mech to absorb enormous levels of physical damage without compromising its performance in battle on the muscles. Most of the larger actions of which a mech is capable are driven by thick bundles of polyacetylene fiber, which contract and expand under the influence of a controlled electrical current in much the same way as the muscles of a human being. While these fibrous bundles seldom receive more than minor damage in battle, the smaller, more delicate actuators, which control the highly precise motions of modern weaponry and sensory attachments, are all too susceptible to the effects of battle. Most mech service areas are well equipped to correct actuator problems. So let's talk about the combat system that you're seeing. It's amongst the most tactical of the role-playing games of this era. I'd say the gold box games are a little better than it, but it's still up there in tactical. I'd say it's kind of on the repetitive side at times, but so are the gold box games. But it's 1,000 times more enjoyable than, say a Might Magic combat system where it's just, you press the A button or something. I'm not as familiar with the Battletech rules as, say, Dungeons and Dragons rules, but I would say that they're following whatever rules there are fairly well. I mean, these mechs, they all have, a certain amount of weaponry. You get to target certain areas of another mech. You can have your lasers point to just one mech on the battlefield and try to get him gone as quick as possible. You could divide up your weapons and you could target several different mechs. Okay, say one's about to be destroyed. Well, you can only target a couple weapons on that one particular mech, and then go all out on another mech. I'd say the best feature of this game's combat system is actually the terrain. You will see forests here. Now in forests, we can't walk as fast, we can't run as fast. We can jump. We can use our jump jets, and that will increase our movement rate in forests, but that provides cover as well. The other mechs, the enemy mechs, will have a much difficult time trying to hit you when you're in a forest. Lots of mechs have heating problems, and if you get too much heat build up, your mech will automatically shut down. But if you go to an area with water, heating will not be a problem because the water will cool down your mech. The damage system itself is extraordinary for any game. Specific areas can be damaged. Specific guns, can be destroyed. Your arm can go out, your leg can go out. These specific areas of the mech, which are very detailed in combat. Let's actually show you a little bit of the mech systems. Now, this is actually for the copyright purposes of the game. When you're training in the school, every time you go start a new mission, you will be asked to name certain areas of your mech, and here it is. The intercooler, we've got the torso mainframe, the jump jet intake, the leg main shaft, the foot actuator, the foot casting, foot unit, gyro housing, balance strut, elbow actuator, torso mainframe. Now this is copyright issues, but it's also like, this is how deep the game goes in its combat simulations. Now, the worst part of the combat, I would say, is that there's just not enough variety in terms of your enemies. Now there are several different mechs that you can face and that you can even have on your team. But there's really not enough of them, and too many of them are encased in the same shells. Like that those Jenners that just destroyed us there, those were in a Locust shell. The WSP-1A Wasp here is the same as the Chameleon, which was just destroyed. Now you can actually get out of the Citadel with that mech if you know what to do. I've done it before, but it involves very precise plotting of your movement and a lot of luck. So we're just going to run away. We're going to run away to the starport here. It's a big world out there, folks. Now, here is a map that comes with the game in the manual. The only thing it marks is the Citadel and the starport there, and just the rest of it's kind of just plotted out, though. There are a lot of other towns other than these, and the game does kind of give you clues that you kind of want to head towards the starport. So, while the game is extraordinarily non-linear, as most Western CRPGs are, it does do its best in the beginning to kind of steer you towards the right. Again, you can't leave the Citadel in the beginning until it's destroyed. At this point, you could go anywhere in the game if you want to, but you are kind of said, well, you probably want to go to the starport here. Now, that map that actually comes with the game is not exactly accurate in all senses. Here is a map that I did by myself. This involves taking pictures of each area of the map and then stitching them together. And this is by far the highest quality that you're ever gonna see online. I have seen this before, but I think it was just screenshots done from either a DOS PC or an emulator or something. Nowhere near this quality in terms of... I took actual pictures of the CRT screen, I edited them, and I stitched them together to make this huge map that you can zoom in on quite a bit. And if you wanted to take a look at that map yourself, zoom into your heart's content, see if you can find the penis that they put in there, well, you can go to my written review at shot97retro.blogspot.com, and you will find a download link there. So the game has really taken a complete turn at this point in time. I can tell you when I was first playing this game, by no means did I expect this place that I had been training at for quite a while, because I was a kid and I sucked and I kept failing all the missions. In no way did I expect to have the home there, the place that I called home. I didn't expect that to be destroyed like that. There was and always has been a little sadness there when I see the Citadel destroyed like that. And then you're on your own, on your feet, to go up to the starport there, and it's a long way. There's lots and lots of random battles that can occur in this game, although you can usually easily flee from them if you want. Unlike a gold box game where you didn't really want to flee, because if you fled, that meant you would be transported randomly somewhere on the map, and that could be an issue there. Here, that's not a problem, because when you flee, you just go back to where you started the battle from. Imagine being on your foot, and then there's a random encounter with 3 mechs. Oh yeah, you're gonna be dead real quick there. How about we check out a little bit of the reviews, shall we? From Amiga World, September of 1989, $3.95 in America. It's an American magazine, by the way. Tips galore. We got graphics, video, productivity, programming, and more. Plus, DOS conversions, reviews, games listed last. Yes, that's how it was in America, pretty much. You did have a couple dedicated gaming magazines, but in reality, like the Amiga and all computers, period, they were really geared towards the hobbyist market, and they wanted all kinds of stuff. They did want their games too, but lastly, they were really into reading about all of this other stuff. It was a thing. The Amiga was a thing in America, but it's a different market. They liked different kinds of games. They loved these role-playing games, as you will see here. Battletech, the Crescent Hawks, Inception by Danny Atkin. Combining role-playing elements, combat strategy, classic Infocom puzzles, and Japanese cartoon graphics, Battletech. The Crescent Hawks Inception is a graphic adventure that you'll want to play in one sitting. A side note, everyone, take a look at that screenshot that they have there, which is obviously some kind of alpha or beta build here. They have the position there. You can see the X position. You can see the exact position where they are. You can see 4 mechs on screen at once. 2 of them are red. That is not in the game. You can see a whole load of humans with them. That's too many. You can only have 3 max mechs, and I think 5 humans. So it's a little different there. I'm very fascinated when I see Pirates was the same way, as a completely different looking screenshot, and you can't find those online. So somewhere out there, these exist. These were given to magazines and stuff. This was an beta or alpha build given to Amiga World, and it's out there somewhere. I'd love to see it, honestly, but you're not going to be able to find it there. You start the game as Jason Youngblood, a rookie cadet learning to pilot a battle mech, a lumbering 50-ton robot that armed to the teeth. Between lessons, you get to play the stock market and try to make a few bucks for outside classes dropped by the weapon shop, and check out the new selection of submachine guns and missile launchers. After the training school is destroyed by the rival faction from House Kurta, you must put together a group of believers in your cause and go on a quest to discover the fate of your father. Fans of the Battletech role-playing games won't be disappointed in this game. Infocom worked with FASA, the original game's creators, in duplicating the first version's combat system. Add the strategy of mech combat to the puzzle solving needed during your quest, and you have a game that will please just about any adventure fan. The interface is also well done. Using the mouse or keypad to move and select options is less distracting than typing commands. My complaints are few. While there are several buildings on the training grounds, you cannot enter many. You spend a lot of time walking from one side of the facility to the other. Perhaps the biggest problem with Battletech is that it ends too quickly. Like an engrossing movie, Battletech will leave you asking, is it over already? 49.95. Infocom, 125 Cambridge Park Drive, Cambridge, Massachusetts. No special requirements. So I would say Amiga World is pretty fond of the game, other than having issues with the length of it all. Just feeling a good game ended a little bit sooner than they would have liked. Well, here is Computer Gaming World, who felt enough of the game that it should make their front cover of January 1989, their 55th issue. Now, unfortunately, the front cover is where my fondness for this particular review begins and ends. Because, as you will see, well, they write this review in the style of the actual characters. I can't stand when writers do this with other people's material. I remember seeing this back in the day, in the late 90s, when I would first get online and look at some walkthroughs for maybe like the Gold Box games or something, and the only walkthroughs they had available were from some guy who really felt some weird sense of duty to present the walkthrough in character. I stood still as Jason waited for the acid stench of melting metal to reach his nostrils. His 25-ton battle mech had taken 3 direct hits from the enemy's Jenner-class medium lasers. Moving would probably be a good idea, he thought, kicking the jump jets. Great, he thought out loud, jumping momentarily at the sound of his own voice. Now I'm running blind. All I need now is to find out I'm up against more than one of these keratin rattle traps. That's how it begins, but that's not the only part where they go in character with actual quotes that don't exist. And it all continues on the next page. Thank you and have a nice millennia. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad day after all. I gave you a little taste of it or whatever. Pause it and read it if you absolutely wish to. But I'm not. I refuse to read too much of that recreation of the story. That's like it comes from a very frustrated writer. I feel like when you are frustrated at your job, you don't actually want to be a reviewer at all. What you want to be is a novelist. That is when you come up with this weird. I mean, I guess it shows that he must really feel something about the game. Actually, in order to create this universe inside your own head, or perhaps not if you actually read the entirety of the. What I feel like this guy is doing is just creating words for the sake of creating words, of reaching a particular word count. As everybody here knows, I love to say all kinds of things and rattle on there. And if you go to my written reviews, shoutout7retro.blogspot.com, again, you will find somebody that loves to drone on and on. But I swear on all that is sacred that there is a point to all of my ramblings. I am trying to get to a point, and I pad all of my reviews with historical information, like these other people's reviews, to give you that context of how other people felt and how it applies to how I feel, if at all. And then I add on to it, personal memories when they apply to these games and how that might influence my current opinion. And when I talk about gameplay mechanics, if I talk about gameplay mechanics, it's how I feel about that overall. Here it's that combat system, because the combat system there is unique compared to role-playing games. You want to talk about the combat system, but I just tell you how I feel about it. It's very tactical. It's it ranks with the Gold Box games in terms of RPG tactical combat. I really get a kick out of it in a sense, especially the terrain. But then again, like many RPG combat systems, it gets a little bit tedious. So there's a good thing and there's a bad thing. I tell you about those feelings as you hear me laughing at squishing that traitor. My hope with all of these reviews is to, in many, many words, tell you, without actually giving you any kind of a percentage or ranking, an exact rating, is to say with my words how I feel about this game, so you out there have a genuine sense of my personal feelings towards this game. And even if you disagree with me, you respect my opinion because you can see the love I put into it all. I don't feel anybody can knock my research, my personal opinions when they are that well thought out. I'm not going to sit here and waste your time talking about every little last thing about the game that you can see on screen. Now, in a written review, some of that is to be understandable because you have to give the readers a genuine sense of what they are getting themselves into, especially with a game where the story is so important. You got to talk about the story, definitely. But you most certainly don't need to create new story with quotes from the characters. You don't need to do that. And you don't need to, point by point. You start out here, and then you go here, and then this happens, and you go here. It doesn't need to be like that linear in your expression of the game. And besides just the overall, that's the bulk of his review is that. But when he actually gets into actual review territory, where he's talking about his actual opinions about the game, which is in the final couple paragraphs, I just don't agree with it either. The storyline is rigidly linear, and characters have a number of places they need to go to proceed to the next phase of the game. Now, the freedom in the game is centered around the individual battles and the tactics that each player will develop. The battles are what Battletech is all about. The graphics are excellent during combat and also during parts of the story. According to Infocom, the game is designed for the 13 to 19-year-old market, and we agree. It could also be used to introduce younger kids into role-playing on the computer. Battletech is made to be solved in about 35 hours, but it can easily be finished in around 20. It depends on how much fighting you want to do. The game is really a combat game with some storylines wrapped around. It's a good game, but definitely for beginning to low intermediate players. It could be a great bridge to bringing new players into the computer field. I'd like to see the sequel add a great deal of complexity and flesh out to the many concepts touched upon this game. Infocom has a great framework here. They should be able to get a lot of mileage out of it in the future. So there's a lot to digest with this guy here. Oh, wow. These guys, if only they had any sense at all about the Japanese invasion in the role-playing game market that would come in, 7-8 years from now. It is clearly a non-linear game. While you are starting the game, they put a little bit of a training wheels on you there, and you're going through your training thing there, yes, in that particular area for that particular amount of time. It's like calling Grand Theft Auto 3 a completely linear, like you don't have no freedom whatsoever to do anything. It's like, yeah, no, what are you talking about? You have utter freedom to go pretty much anywhere. Yeah, maybe when you first start Grand Theft Auto 3 or something, you're stuck on the island, but the things grow and you get access to more areas. Nobody would be crazy enough not to call that an open world vast game. This is the same thing. It is huge. You saw the map, the hand map I made. You can go anywhere on that map at any time that you want. It tries to point you, via the story. It's up to you, the person playing, to heed those warnings, to get some information out of those clues. Yes, I would say it is geared towards the teenage market, but I wouldn't say it's geared towards necessarily the teenage market of computer users, because that was not the primary market for computer worlds at the time were adults. It's geared towards the teenage market because that is what science fiction period was geared towards forever until this day. It is geared towards teenagers, really. I would say it's probably more of their hope that the teenagers would just be wind of this science fiction-y battle mech kind of a game, and therefore want to play it, and therefore you've introduced them to a new genre and a whole new way to play. Like I told you all at the beginning, this is the game that made me fall in love with computer RPGs. This game just stuck with me forever and made me interested in playing more RPGs, American non-linear RPGs. Now, could you say that maybe it's just my nostalgia glasses talking there, that it's just from my childhood, and that I refuse to see the bad in this game? Well, I've criticized several points already. I do see the bad parts of this game, but look, it's not a difference of opinion when this guy states a fact, and it's not true. He states this as a linear experience, and it's factually incorrect. It is a non-linear game. Now, how am I to respect your opinions when you get the facts wrong? And then it is his opinion, but it is stated as fact that this entire game, the freedom, everything, it's all about the combat, and you will see very little combat in my review of this game, because it is by no means the most important thing. It is the most tedious thing. It has great parts. It is very tactically relevant. It is fun in moderation, but you will also be fleeing from the majority of battles, the random encounters. I guarantee you'll be fleeing from the majority of them. It's about the story, everybody. I've watched you train, and I know that you will succeed in this assignment. Since you're watching me on this disc now, then I must already be dead. As Rex must have told you by now, I have been searching Pacifica for a rumored Starleague cache of mech repair parts. I've been looking for it for most of the 12 years we have been stationed here. I may not live long enough to report its location. Some people don't want to see many of the old Kellhounds last very long, so I'm giving you the keys to locating it. This is it, like, it's all of this story. This is the heart of the game. This is your journey. This is the stuff that will stick with you about the game. The combat is wonderfully implemented, but it isn't by no means is it the heart of the game. As for that whole kiddie aspect of it all, I would agree with an asterisk attached to it. Again, like these people, they've never played a JRPG in their lives. They don't know what linear is. I will sometimes criticize a JRPG because of how they absolutely point you every which way. There's no other way to go. And maybe they'll have a large map sometimes, but it's an illusion. And everything is blocked off. And when you go past one area, you can't go back to another. Like, it's really is linear, but they make up for it with constant good story that's always being told. Any character you meet tells you a little bit of the story via several sentences at a time. It's a constant flow. JRPGs, they have merit and great stories. That's what makes them great. The American RPGs that were always about the journey, they usually didn't feature that much story. They'd have some story occasionally. But the tradition was to tell you in big blocks of text every now and then, not constantly. This is like a perfect marriage of non-linear gameplay, a game that doesn't, it tries to help you along the way, but it's up to you. You can go anywhere you want to. You can die immediately. You have your training wheels, but you're not coddled at the same time. You can't just go left to right and finish the game. You can't just go. You have to use some of your mind here, and it's that story. And like a JRPG, this one has constant story coming your way. But unlike a JRPG, and unlike the graphical adventure games in America, this has the old school adventure style. Like, you can't knock this text, everybody. My dad played this. He liked this game, and it was also had something for me. You ponder it reverently, knowing that you are about to see his face for the very last time. You are jolted back to reality by the unmistakable sound of a key turning in a lock. The mayor's here! You quickly turn. You scramble madly for the kitchen table and cower there, trying to control your breathing. The mayor opens the door, puts his coat on the rack, and sits down on the couch. Good. He isn't suspicious. Maybe you won't be killed. After all, the mayor groans loudly. You freeze in place, half exposed and half hiding. You hear his heavy footsteps coming closer and closer and closer. He's coming into the kitchen. And all this confusion, you crawl out from under the table, shredding your hands on the broken glass and leaving a thin trail of blood. Your hair is plastered into your eyes, glued there by sticking juice. You try to wipe the hair out of your eyes and see red. Thinking quickly, you grab the exorbitantly ugly and expensive sculpture from the living room table and fling it through his kitchen window. Mayor rounds the corner quickly now, ignoring his fallen mop. You take advantage of the moment and slip out of the door just as the mayor unleashes a new stream of epithets at the innocent urchins. Hey, you kids! Get away from my hibachi! 13-year-old market my ass. Well, maybe it was. Maybe it was, geared towards those children, but it wasn't insulting their intelligence by any means. You want to know my biggest memory of this game? Well, it was that scene that you just heard me act out right there. That heart-pounding scene. I can still remember the first time I read those wonderful, wonderful words, and my heart was pounding the entire way. I really thought, okay, I'm gonna die. All right, I don't think I happened to save it until the last town before, I got to this town here. And, the first thing I see is this mayor's house. I go in there, and here's this text. And I'm thinking, this he's about to find me now. If it is a game that I only loved at the time because I was a kid, well, I gotta tell you, I still love it as an adult. I can see some, things that could have been better there, but I still adore this game. And I played this through several times, and it's still surprising me. I still see things every now and then that I've never seen before. Is it short? I don't know. Maybe if you're not doing what you should be doing in an RPG, which is mapping everything. Now, you don't have to hand map this one because it comes with a great auto mapping feature, and you even have a little bit of a map in the manual there. but it's still, in terms of an RPG, like, you really should just... You want to beat an RPG the right way, you travel in every single spot you can possibly travel in. That's what you want to do. You do that, and you visit all the locations you can, and the upcoming final part, if you play that correctly and don't cheat, well, I would call it in the medium range, maybe slightly more towards the shorter end, but it's not super short by any means. And why is that necessarily bad? Why is that a bad thing? It's like putting down Defender of the Crown because it's short. Defender of the Crown is an historical, awesome strategy game. If you get into that mindset of cinema where you're at the movies, like a ticket to the movies. What is the thing that everybody hates about RPGs? They take forever to play. It's coming from somebody who is well accustomed to, the CRPGs that he's already seen, which there is plenty of criticisms to be had of those RPGs back in the day even. And don't get me wrong, I love those games. I love your Might and Magics, okay? And yes, Might and Magic, or an Ultima, or the Gold Box games, or the Bard's Tale. These are very difficult games that show you no mercy. You can honestly die 5 minutes into starting those games. But come on, guys, not every game has to be the same. This is an RPG with a true sense of text adventure that comes along with it. And maybe it is a little shorter, but why is that bad? And then you can, play it and you can get a kick out of it. Maybe you can play this one once a year or something, unlike most RPGs, which you can't play that often. And these days, despite these games having sold the most out of any other games of the time, for the computer audience in America especially, these were the hot-selling games. Your RPGs, action games, whatever, simulations, adventures, like, they were the most hot-selling games, and they ate them up. My dad ate these games up, and despite that, these are the games that are getting lost in time today. It's like, oh, here's a hidden gem or something for the... This ain't no hidden gem. Everybody would have known about this game. I collected no shortage of reviews covering this one. I'm probably not going to get to show you them all. That's how many there were. Popular enough to spawn a direct sequel, which I guess was not popular enough to get another sequel after that. But the computer saga lived on with the MechWarrior franchise. And if it's hidden today, it's only because the people now looking at these games, they're wearing sunglasses. They're blinded by these platformers that they played as a kid. And those games sold nothing in America, and they probably didn't sell too much in Europe either. They were stolen. Today, when most people hear the term RPG, what they think of is a JRPG, a Japanese-style RPG. And even when America goes to develop an RPG today, like the South Park RPG, it's a JRPG made in America. The history is definitely getting lost there, as the kids of my time, their only exposure to an RPG was on the consoles, because there were so many more consoles sold everywhere in the world. And, they finally got their chance to see, your Final Fantasies or your Earthbound or something. And that is now what they think of in terms of those games. And trust me, you can find a JRPG lover who probably thinks himself something special because he loves these, very special story-driven games that they think, require, spell casting and all these other, tactical maneuvers. They are personally happy that it's not all about, your Sonic the Hedgehogs or your Marios or your Castlevanias with them. They go a little deeper. But how many of them go deep enough to where they've ever looked at an American RPG? Well, maybe this is actually the perfect American CRPG that the JRPG people should be pointed to in order to, best transition from one area to the other. Because if they just go to a Bard's Tale or an Ultima or a Might and Magic or even the Gold Box games, they're probably going to be slaughtered, and they're not going to give these games the time they deserve. And because maybe it's a little shorter, they can get through it faster. They can use their minds to discover this game's secrets, and they won't die right away. They'll have a chance. I can speak from experience. This was the first RPG I got a chance. Well, I played Might and Magic 2. I played some other ones before this, but this was the one that I actually got to fiddle around with and didn't die immediately, and I got to have some fun with it as a kid, which helped me immensely into giving the other many plethora of CRPGs the absolute attention they deserved. Yes, I can recommend this game to so many people. To those who have never played an RPG, play this game. To those who have played them all except this one, play this game, because you'll still have fun, even if it is a little easier or whatever than what you're used to. Play this superbly unique RPG, adventure game, science, fictional battle, mech, and now we're on a map of the universe, which is a final aim at copy protection, actually. You will have clues that you will, look at something, look at a map, or look at something your father gave you, and your father, it's in the manual, he gave you this little map here, and as you can see, there is a highlighted green area starting in the upper right there with Pishit, going down to Benjamin Sky, Ryerson, Katilha, and Akerlna. That is the ones you have to press. It's a final thing. It's a final bit of copy protection for you to finish this area. Now, I was told by someone on Twitter that the European budget release of this game was not handled by Infocom themselves, unfortunately. They did not get the manual. They couldn't possibly defeat the game because it didn't come with that page. Can you believe that? There's been so many wonderful topics to talk about in this review. I'm sure I'm going to miss a few, but let me talk about this final area that you see here, this very different area compared to the rest of the game. We're on foot. We're going from door to door. We got to collect these key codes. You have 3 key. Each door has 3 key codes. This is the puzzle element. This is very much another adventure-style element they chose to put in this game. And guess what, everybody who thinks maybe I just like this game because I liked it when I was a kid or something. I came to this review fully expecting to criticize the entire final ending to the game. I was going to say, well, you know what? An RPG is about the journey, not the destination. The story and everything was great up until this point when they chose to just shift it all on us, and now we gotta fetch a bunch of key codes to open a bunch of doors to activate electricity and get to the final area to send a transmission. This wasn't the game I signed up for, right? And that's what I always felt about the ending to this game, because guess what? I never finished this game as a kid. I found the Star Cache area, but I don't think I completely got one of my characters leveled up enough in order to pass that guy's tests. So I wasn't able to actually get him to give me the password and stuff. It wouldn't have been until the early 2000s when I would have looked up a walkthrough. And I probably would have seen what other people were saying about the game, and I guess the general consensus is that people don't like this final area to the game. And guess what? I figured out why. Because I don't hate it anymore. I like the final ending. It is the perfect change. It is what we needed from the story that was previous and the combat that was so heavy. It was the perfect change of pace that we needed. And I came to this realization simply because it was the first time I had ever played the final area without a walkthrough. I played it legitimately. When you are looking at a walkthrough that is telling you to, remember where you got the key to number 47? Go back to that area and then get, go here and to get yellow number 50 or whatever to go to this door. Or even if you can watch the entire thing via a video walkthrough. It's still a tedious thing because you gotta follow. You gotta know where he's going. You gotta follow his every move. If you finish this game with a a walkthrough, you're not only cheating yourself, you're cheating the entire game out of its reputation. You will be completely frustrated with the final ending if you're following a walkthrough, because you're going to sit down and intending to finish it all in one go, and it's going to drive you insane. But that's not how you're meant to do it. Just focus one door at a time. Go in there. There's a certain amount of computers available to get the key cards. You go to the computers, see which ones you have right. Go to some more. Get them together. It's a matter of simple elimination. There is nobody that cannot finish the game without cheating. It only takes your time and patience. So get one door and then just step away from the game for a while. Get another door and then step away from the game. Save it or something. Then go back. Get another door. That is how you're meant to do it. And if you do it that way, you'll have a completely newfound understanding for this game. And if you restart it, it actually goes into an EGA palette. There's some people out there who like to falsely claim that this game is another, DOS, easy, lazy port or something. It absolutely is not. These people have no eyes. Just look at the DOS version. It is so obvious. They've changed colors. They've changed skin tones. They've changed a bunch of the graphics. Maybe it is a port of the ST or something, but it runs great. It definitely is above the DOS version. It is a wonderful experience on the Amiga. It has those great sounds as well. I fully recommend everybody play this game. I can understand maybe not everybody liking it. It had a share of mixed reviews. Generally the highest was in the 80s and stuff, and a couple of the British magazines gave it pretty low in the 40s, kind of a score there. There's mixed opinion about this one. I can understand not personally getting into it, but it's absolutely worth trying. This is so unique of a game. Everybody check out Gaming Jay's complete review of the second game in the series, the Crescent Hawks Revenge, which he absolutely loves that game, and it's going to be a while until you get to hear my opinions on that one, so take it from somebody who enjoys the game. I think it will certainly be worth your time. You can check out some other RPGs that I have done, like Eye of the Beholder on the Amiga, Might and Magic 3, and Pool of Radiance. If you all enjoy that, I hope you all check out my written review for this one right here at shot87retro.blogspot.com, or check the links in the comments or description. I hope to see you all later, and I hope I did this very text-heavy game justice.